Permitted to do so. I call on private and local order of the day number 1.
Waitaki District Council Reserves and Other Land Empowering Bill, second reading.
I call the honourable member Jackie Dean.
Mr Speaker, I move that the Waitaki District Council Reserves and Other Land Empowering Bill be now read a second time. Mr Speaker, the Waitaki District Reserves and Other Land Empowering Bill considers 3 pieces of land in the Waitaki District, those being in the town of Oamaru. And the purpose of this local bill is to revoke the reserve status of the Palmerston Showgrounds, to revoke the reserve status of land in Witham Street, Oamaru, and thirdly, to clarify the status of land known as Lookout Point or Forester Heights. The first 2 matters in the bill are straightforward. The bill revokes the reservation of the Palmerston Showground land under the Reserves Act of 1977 and vests ownership of the land in the Waitaki District Council. The council had thought it owned the land and entered into a sale and purchase agreement with the current lessees. When the ownership is vested in council with the passage of this bill, the council can then sell the property. And this is an issue which might well make the junior whip across the House yawn with boredom, but I can assure that member that this is a matter to those people who live at the Palmerston Showgrounds, which is actually quite important to them. And so too, I am sorry, it's the senior whip. Well, you'd never know to look at him, would you? So the second item in this bill is the second parcel of land which again the council thought it owned, so it was a mistake on behalf of the local authority, in Witham Street in about the centre of Oamaru, not too far from where we live, by the way, and they sold it to the current occupants. The council wishes to put right this mistake and to be able to vest ownership of the property in the current proprietors. And again, when I meet those people, as I do occasionally when I'm out buying bread, they say, how is the bill coming along? Because it is something that they are a bit anxious about. They really would like to have the status of the land where their home is and where they live clarified. So those are the first 2 issues brought with the Waitaki Bill. And thirdly, Council wishes to clarify the status of Lookout Point, which is also known as Forester Heights. And for those people who have been to Oamaru, it is the beautiful piece of land. Lookout Point is to the south. You look down and you see Oamaru Harbour, Oamaru out to Pukuri, out to the north, spread out before you. It is truly a beautiful part of Oamaru and a very nice part of the town and a beautiful piece of land. The land was originally purchased by the government from Ngāi Tahu as part of the Kemp purchase, and that parcel of land, now known as Forester Heights, was included in the original subdivision of the town of Oamaru back in the 1900s. The land was set aside in 1885 under Gazette Notice 1885, reserved for the purposes of an endowment in aid of the funds of the Oamaru Borough Council. And while the junior whip on the opposition may yawn at this point, this is actually quite pertinent to this bill, and it does matter to a lot of people. The confusion... Senior whip? Are you sure? He is the... okay. The confusion has been whether the word reserve relates to whether the land has been designated a reserve under the Reserves Act, or whether reserve means set apart. And I know I'm probably speaking too quickly for the whip, but anyway, we will box on. The committee received extensive advice on this very point and concluded, based on the evidence presented to us both by submitters, and we received some quite extensive submissions on this point from a number of submitters, and I want to thank them for the work they did on this bill, and also advice the committee received from officials. The committee concluded that Lookout Point is not a reserve and confirms it as being vested as an endowment in the council in aid of borough funds. So it is interesting to note that this issue was also canvassed by the Primary Production Committee as part of the rolled bill, Reserves and Other Lands Bill, and in clauses 18 to 20. And in their Select Committee report, the committee noted that Linz and DOC, who both have an interest in this, had reviewed their records and that they were satisfied that treating Lookout Point as a reserve was, and I'll quote from the report because I think it adds weight to the decision of the committee, was a genuine mistake resulting from various meanings and legal uses of the word reserve. So it's been the most terrible tangle, and it has certainly tied up the local community for a number of years. The committee received a number of submissions on the Forester Heights bill. There were around 6 in favour, 6 or 7 in favour, and 10 against this particular provision in the bill. There were no submissions against the first two provisions that I outlined, but there was certainly more controversy around this third provision. And also I want to take time to thank all those submitters who took the time to join us by teleconference or to travel to Wellington or to write in with their submissions and very helpful photo and documentation in aid of their submission. I can assure them that the committee looked at each and every submission, argued as committees do over every point raised, and I am happy with the conclusion that the committee came to. A number of those submitters focused on the status of Forester Heights, on the status of the reserve land or otherwise, and a number of submissions and submitters focused on the past, present and future potential uses of the land known as Forester Heights. Mr. Speaker, I want to cover now matters that were not considered as part of the bill. Any proposed use of the land is a matter for the Waitaki District Council and is out of scope of this bill. I don't propose to tell the local authority what to do with the land. It is not the job of Parliament to do that, and it is out of scope with the Waitaki bill. Whether the land has been used, perhaps wrongly or rightly, as public reserves since the 1890s, or maybe whether the land has underrunners, is prone to movement or not, whether the land should or should not be subdivided and sold, is not the business of the local government committee, and indeed is not the business of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, I am firmly of the view that through this bill, Parliament has been asked to clarify the status of the land, and it's been asked to do that only. It is for the local authority, together with the local community, to decide any use of the land that might be put into the future. Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy to bring this bill to the House on behalf of the Waitaki District Council. This has been a difficult and long-standing issue for the Oamaru community, and I was pleased to hear Waitaki District Mayor Alec Hamilton tell the committee during his submission that whatever the outcome of this bill, whatever the status of the land, he would put any future use of that land back to the community. I applaud him for that, and Mr. Speaker, I commend the bill to the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to.
Mr. Speaker.
I call the Honourable